Good evening. It's Friday, the 24th of October, and here's what's making news around the world on World News Tonight. Road disaster. Bus fire tragedy on an Indian highway claims 12 lives after a motorcycle collision. Foreign relations. Colombian president warns that potential U.S. military funding cuts could severely affect his nation's security operations. Social impact. Salon chairs are turning into safe space conversations as hairstylists lead a national movement.
From Colombo, this is World News Tonight.
Good evening and thank you once again for joining us on World News Tonight on Derana News Channel. In India's southern state of Andhra Pradesh, a luxury bus bound for Bengaluru caught fire earlier today after colliding with a motorcycle on NH44. At least 19 people have been confirmed dead and many injured as flames engulfed the vehicle in minutes.
In the early hours near Chinnateku village in the Kurnool district of Andhra Pradesh, a bus travelling from Hyderabad to Bengaluru collided with a motorcycle, which became trapped under the bus. Sparks from the crash reportedly caused the fuel tank to rupture and ignite, rapidly engulfing the bus in flames. Investigators say most passengers were asleep at the time of the accident, and many were unable to escape in time. Reports indicate the main exit door jammed, forcing survivors to break windows and jump to safety. Some bodies remain unidentified due to the severity of the blaze. The incident has reignited concerns over enforcement of safety regulations in India's commercial transport sector. Road accidents in India claimed approximately 180,000 lives last year, largely attributed to reckless driving, overcrowded vehicles, and lax oversight. Authorities have opened investigations into both the collision and the bus operator's compliance record.
In Tokyo, a man brandishing a knife has been arrested near the U.S. Embassy Tokyo. A riot policeman was injured, though his condition remains unclear. The incident comes just days before Donald Trump's scheduled visit to Japan, underscoring heightened security concerns.
According to multiple reports, the arrest occurred outside the U.S. Embassy in Tokyo today, when police confronted a man carrying a knife. Authorities with the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department say a riot police officer sustained an injury during the apprehension, though officials have not provided details on how serious the injury is. The suspect's motive remains unknown and the investigations are ongoing. The timing of the incident is notable, coming just days ahead of President Trump's visit to Tokyo from October 27th to the 29th, during which he is expected to meet with Emperor Naruhito and Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi. Japan's authorities had already mobilized additional security personnel, reportedly as many as 18,000 extra officers, to safeguard the diplomatic engagement. While random knife incidents in Japan remain relatively rare, this event near a high-security diplomatic facility draws attention to the challenges of safeguarding international missions. It also raises questions about possible links, if any, to the upcoming visit or broader political signaling. Officials say no firm motive has been established and the suspect remains in custody under investigation.
Tonight, we bring you a significant moment in Northeast Asian diplomacy. In Simpyeon County, North Hongwei Province, North Korea has launched the renovation of a cemetery honoring the Chinese People's Volunteers, the Chinese troops who fought alongside North Korea in the 1950-53 war. The ceremony was attended by China's ambassador and North Korean officials, underscoring a renewed diplomatic push as the two countries mark the 75th anniversary of China's entry into the conflict.
The cemetery renovation in Simpyeon County marks a symbolic act of commemoration and bilateral solidarity. The groundbreaking ceremony featured speeches by China's Ambassador Wang Yajun and North Korea's Vice Minister of Urban Management Kang Chol-ho, with attendance by CPV veterans, families of martyrs, Chinese students, and ethnic Chinese residents in the North. The choice of location and participants highlights the North's desire to visibly affirm its long-standing ties with Beijing, grounded in shared wartime history. China's intervention in the Korean War, crossing the Yalu River in mid-October 1950, and scoring its first major victory on October 25th remains a foundational memory in Beijing's narrative of that conflict. The renovation, timed ahead of the 75th anniversary of China's entry, is thus more than a construction project. It serves as a diplomatic gesture, reinforcing the blood-forged friendship between the two states. Additionally, previous efforts to repatriate the remains of fallen CPV soldiers reflect the longevity and sensitivity of this wartime legacy. In broader context, the renovation comes as North Korea and China seek to deepen cooperation amid shifting geopolitical dynamics. For Pyongyang, the act underscores recognition of its historical partnership with Beijing. For Beijing, it allows a reaffirmation of regional influence and alignment with a key neighbor. While the cemetery project is symbolic, it may hint at further practical ties, economic, strategic, or cultural, being reaffirmed under the veneer of commemoration. Observers will be watching whether this historical remembrance translates into new initiatives between the two nations.
Senior South Korean officials have returned from Washington after urgent discussions with the U.S. on tariff-related trade talks. Although progress was reported, key issues remain unresolved, specifically over the structure of the Seoul's $350 billion investment pledge. With the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit and a summit between Donald Trump and Lee Jae-myung in looming, time is running out.
The Presidential Chief of Staff for Policy, Kim Yong-bum, and Industry Minister Kim Jong-kwon have returned home from Washington after holding follow-up tariff negotiations with U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. Though there had been some progress in the talks, the two countries still remain sharply divided over key points, the presidential aide said on Friday to the reporters at Incheon Airport.
There are still a few remaining issues, and we're now at a very critical moment. We'll do our best until the very end.
When asked about the possibility of reaching a trade deal by the time President Lee meets President Trump next week, Kim said there is still a long way to go and that time is running out.
There's no time left for additional face-to-face negotiations, and APEC is just around the corner. Time is running out, and if we're hoping for a deal to be reached around APEC, there's still a long way to go.
Kim, however, added that negotiations sometimes advance rapidly at the final stage. The officials did not disclose specific areas where they were at odds with the U.S., but one of the key issues has been differences over how to implement Seoul's $350 billion investment pledge. There were some expectations of two allies reaching a trade deal as Washington took one step back from demanding a full cash investment or upfront equity contribution, which Seoul deemed unrealistic given the country's foreign exchange constraints. However, the U.S. is still reportedly pressing for a considerable portion of direct cash investment to which South Korea is seeking to reduce the cash portion as much as possible and extend the investment period to avoid shocks to Korea's foreign exchange market. There still are some views, though, that the upcoming Korea-U.S. summit next week could provide the momentum to reach a deal.
Let's go in for a short commercial break. More world news coming right after this. Welcome back. Colombia's President Gustavo Petro said that while a full suspension of U.S. development aid would mean nothing, any reduction in military support, especially helicopters, could seriously undermine Colombia's security efforts. His comments come amid a deepening rift with Donald Trump administration over drug war policy and tariffs.
Colombia's President Gustavo Petro said on Thursday that cutting aid from the U.S. would not hurt his country much. He claimed that he has never seen the aid in the Colombian budget, but that it goes to NGOs that USAID manages outside the government. He added that, quote, "It's kind of aid for U.S. employment." But Petro did admit that changes to military funding could have an effect.
En la ayuda militar, pues tenemos algunos problemas.
In military aid, we may have some problems. Let's say military aid has served to deliver arms when they're needed. There are warehouses full of arms oxidizing as they were not needed or were bought under opaque interests. There are corruption problems that the aid has generated. In my opinion, the instruction I've given the military forces I command is to replace the aid with the national budget. In other words, Colombia will buy its own arms.
Es que reemplazamos la ayuda por el presupuesto nacional. Es decir, Colombia compra sus armas.
Colombia was once among the largest recipients of US aid in the Western Hemisphere. But this year, the money suddenly dropped when USAID, the US government's humanitarian assistance arm, was shut down. The Trump administration has already decertified Colombia's efforts to fight drug trafficking, which opens the door to potential further cuts. Petro has objected to the US military strikes against vessels in the Caribbean, which have killed dozens and inflamed tensions in the region.
Well, he's a thug and bad guy.
Trump responded by calling Petro a, quote, bad guy, which Colombia's government says is offensive. Although Trump has not added new taxes beyond the 10% already on Colombian products, he said on Wednesday he may take serious action against the country. Petro said Trump probably won't tax oil and coal, which make up 60% of what Colombia sells to the US. And he said Colombia can find new buyers for other products. Higher tariffs would go against long-time US policy that free trade can make legitimate exports more attractive than drug smuggling. Experts say more duties could eventually bolster drug trafficking.
During a state visit to the Vatican yesterday, King Charles III and Pope Leo XIV prayed together in the Sistine Chapel, the first public joint prayer between English monarch and a pope since the 1534 Reformation, in a symbolic act of Anglican-Catholic reconciliation.
In the heart of the Vatican, a moment, half a millennia, in the making. The Supreme Governor of the Church of England, alongside the head of the Catholic Church, praying publicly together.
Let us pray.
Swiss guards formed a guard of honour to greet the King and Queen as they arrived at the Vatican. Their Majesties then escorted inside the Apostolic Palace, meeting Pope Leo XIV for the first time.
Good morning. Welcome.
It's such a pleasure to meet you.
Queen Camilla dressed in a black outfit and black mantilla, a lace veil, a mark of respect for the pontiff. Before the time came to enter the hallowed halls of the Sistine Chapel, the sacred space in which Pope Leo was elected to the papacy just 5 months ago, this moment of unity between Christian churches not seen in 500 years. Michelangelo's masterpiece bearing witness to the deeply symbolic service, focusing on a cause both the King and the Pope are passionate about, protecting the environment.
God our Father, you have created the heavens and the earth.
The Queen changing into white for a visit to the Papal Basilica St. Paul's outside the walls, where the King was bestowed a new title, Royal Confrater. Outside, the royal couple were greeted like rock stars.
At the European Union summit in Brussels, Volodymyr Zelensky urged member states to approve a €140 billion loan for Ukraine backed by frozen Russian assets. But objections from Belgium forced the group to postpone a decision and asked the European Commission to explore options instead.
In Brussels on Thursday, European leaders failed to reach an agreement on using frozen Russian assets to help fund Ukraine's war effort, despite a direct appeal from President Vladimir Zelensky for urgent action. Zelensky called on the European Union to release €140 billion held in a Belgian clearinghouse, saying, quote, Russia brought war to our land, and they have to pay for this war. But opposition from Belgium, which hosts most of the frozen funds, blocked consensus. Belgian Prime Minister Bart de Wever warned that his country needs guarantees that other members will share any legal or financial risks if Moscow challenges the move. EU leaders instead asked the European Commission to explore alternative financing options, postponing a final decision until December's summit. The impasse came as the EU approved its 19th round of sanctions targeting Russian liquefied natural gas and several Chinese energy buyers, while the US imposed new measures on Russia's 2 largest oil companies.
Security forces in northwestern Syria have negotiated a temporary truce with a French-led jihadist group holed up in a camp near the Turkish border. The group headed by Omar Diaby agreed to hand over heavy weapons after being surrounded by the Syrian Interior Ministry's internal security units.
A gunfight between Syrian security forces and suspected jihadists. The raid took place in the northwestern province of Idlib, near the Turkish border, where around 50 jihadist fighters belonging to the so-called Foreigners Brigade were holed up and ignored calls to surrender. They were led by a Franco-Senegalese criminal turned preacher and recruiter, Omar Diaby, also known by his war name Umar Omsen. In 2016, he was designated an international terrorist by the US for his suspected role in funneling French-speaking fighters to Syria, and is also wanted by French authorities. Wednesday's raid was the first time Syria's new government targeted a jihadist cell, a sign of President Ahmed al-Shara'a's desire to break with his own radical Islamist past and present a moderate image. It was unclear whether Syrian authorities intended to hand over Diaby or other fighters to their respective countries of origin.
Time for a short break now. We'll be right back with more world news. Welcome back. Pop superstar Taylor Swift has donated $100,000 to the family of 2-year-old Lila Smoot, who is battling a rare and aggressive stage 4 brain tumor. The funds will support her ongoing treatment and relieve mounting medical costs.
This brave 2-year-old little girl is in a fight for her life. Lila Smoot has been battling an aggressive form of stage 4 brain cancer. She was just 18 months old when she had a seizure and doctors discovered a tumor on her brain.
Lila's cancer is so aggressive that things can change in a month. So we really don't know what the future looks like.
Mom Caitlin, Dad Tyler, and baby brother William have been documenting her journey with her. And the one thing that has gotten Lila through her toughest days? Taylor Swift.
You say she's your friend?
Yeah. I thought it was so funny, so I had to post it just because I like to post things about Lila with her cancer journey.
So you could imagine the family's surprise when Taylor herself donated $100,000 to help with the medical costs. Sending the biggest hug to my friend Lila. Love, Taylor, the superstar says.
When I saw the message from Taylor, I just was in shock. I don't think I moved for 30 minutes.
Within days, Swifties from around the world rallied and pitched in to raise over $200,000 more.
I am just overly blown away for the support.
A Nashville-based salon owner and a longtime stylist, Suzanne Shepherd-Post, is leading a movement through the initiative Sheer Haven, an effort that has helped pass legislation in Tennessee requiring licensed beauty professionals to receive training in recognizing and responding to domestic violence.
Suzanne Shepherd-Post says a hair appointment can be about so much more than physical maintenance. After 30 years in the business, she's had all kinds of conversations with her clients.
I've seen and heard everything behind the chair. I've had clients open up to me about their own abusive relationships.
The stories hit home for Shepherd-Post, who says she too was in an abusive marriage. She co-founded an organization, Sheer Haven, to get her industry more involved in fighting domestic violence. In 2021, she pushed for a law in her home state of Tennessee to get salon professionals to take a 20-minute free training course on how to recognize signs of abuse and how to respond when they're present.
Non-physical signs that we're in a unique position to see. There might be signs of isolation, maybe pulling away from some of their closest family or friends. They might seem a little withdrawn or have more cancellations.
WTVF reports 71,000 people have taken the course, and those who don't take it could lose their license by the end of the year. Spreading awareness is the only way, she says, to help people who may be quietly suffering.
And with that, we come to the end of today's edition of World News Tonight. With the hopes of seeing you again, I'm Sitmi Adhikari, and we leave you tonight with the visuals of costumed pets stealing the spotlight at Key West. Also, don't forget to send us your feedback through email at feedback.adncenglish@derana.lk or via WhatsApp at 076-805-7933. Thank you for watching World News Tonight on Other Derana News Channel. Have a great weekend.